Agent Romanoff. You miss me?
Oh yeah, Charles, we got ourselves an X-Men fan.
Captain.
Your Highness.
Captain, big fan, Spider-Man. Hey everyone.
Hey guys, and welcome to Filmartsy, your #1 source for all things films and movies. And if you're a fan of the Marvel Cinematic Universe, you probably have been really looking at the new Black Widow trailer, as this is not only the next movie in the MCU to release, but it's also the kickoff for Phase 4, and also kind of the swan song for the character Black Widow. And with the new trailer we recently took a look at... Oh, look at that. That shield, though. A little reference to Iron Man 2. We saw a lot of stuff, but most interestingly, we saw more information about Taskmaster, the main villain of this upcoming movie, or apparently the main villain of this upcoming movie. And we saw a lot of little sneak previews as to what we can expect from this character moving forward that gets fans across the board pretty hyped. And we wanted to go ahead and jump into it and just talk about who Taskmaster is, what he does, and why this character could be one of the most interesting characters we've seen as an antagonist since maybe Thanos, and in general a more interesting character than other villains we've seen even before Thanos. So let's go ahead and jump into who exactly Taskmaster is and why we should care. Now, first up, this character's typical comic background is that not only does he also have a super serum similar to Captain America's super serum, he also has this photographic type memory that allows him to remember and replicate things that he sees. Now, his memory is extremely sharp in the fields of recreating those types of things that he sees and different types of movements and actions and all of that. However, his memory might not be the best in other types of categories like historical things and whatnot. So this is going to be really interesting because, as we can see from the trailer right away, there's already some hinting that this is going to be the interpretation of the character they're going to use for the upcoming Black Widow movie. Right away in the trailer, from the very first trailer we even saw, we see the bow and arrow usage, which is kind of a obvious callback to Hawkeye, and it's very possible that this character has spent a lot of time studying all of the Avengers. We even see a scene in the new trailer where we see Taskmaster watching footage of Black Widow from Iron Man 2, which is actually where that character made her first appearance, which is a really cool circle of a callback as they're kind of going back to the beginning of this character's story by using that as the ideal footage to study. But what's really interesting is we can kind of put together the pieces here that Taskmaster has taken time to study all of the Avengers, and we see little things along the way from what we saw in the trailer, like a Black Panther callback, some obvious Captain America callbacks, maybe even some stuff from Spider-Man. And what's awesome is, while this movie isn't necessarily going to focus in on other characters in the MCU, it's really going to be focused in on Black Widow's story. It does seem like this character as an antagonist will be that bridge that kind of connects this movie to the MCU. We won't be seeing Captain America jumping into fight, probably. I mean, we don't know for sure, but we might see a callback to Captain America through this character, and so on with a ton of other characters. Now, while we see the callbacks to the characters we just mentioned, what's really interesting is there's probably a lot of possibilities as well as other characters that Taskmaster might kind of take on in one way or another. Maybe we'll see some sort of hammer or axe type fighting style reminiscent of Thor's hammer or the Stormbreaker. They could even do some really cool callbacks with the Winter Soldier or even the Falcon. Who knows, maybe they'll pull something from Guardians of the Galaxy and use Drax. Or if they want to take it a step further, maybe they can find a way to replicate Thanos' fighting style and have Taskmaster take that on. Now, we don't expect some mystical powers like what we see with the Scarlet Witch or Doctor Strange to be something that is taken inspiration upon. However, they might try to find some sort of way to incorporate mentions or nods to those characters through using the Taskmaster character. Now, there's a lot of other really interesting things that we have seen when breaking down the trailer, and some really interesting theories have gone viral online just talking about the possibilities of what they could be doing and how they could be gauging this character. When we go back to the scene where we see Taskmaster sitting in the room watching footage of Iron Man 2, we kind of get a close-up on Taskmaster's face or his mask, and you can actually see in the top middle above where his eyes would be something that looks very reminiscent to a small camera. Now this suggests a whole slew of possibilities as to what this could mean if this is in fact a camera and not just like part of the design. But this could also mean that A, he is recording everything that he's experiencing so he can go back and study it later, which would mean that when he's fighting one-on-one with people he's never maybe fought with before, he can quickly learn and memorize and go back and study and kind of outdo these people later on, or these enemies of him later on. So that's interesting nonetheless, but there's also been fans and other community speculation going around that it is possible that there could also be some sort of AI involved that helps Taskmaster be prepared for attacks before they even come at him. Now this one is a little bit more controversial, as at the end of the day, having something like an AI on board kind of takes away from the core of the character himself. A lot of the concepts involved in having this character have this super memory is what makes this character unique. So there's definitely been some people rejecting this theory, hoping it's not the case, because if they go down that path, it kind of changes at least the perspective of what made that character interesting. Who knows, they could go down that route and still do it in a unique way. We saw them kind of take a character and mix them with tech a lot in Spider-Man Far From Home, with having Mysterio introduced, as he doesn't really have superpowers in the way that you would expect him to from like the comics, and it's just this tech-based villain. And maybe they could do something like that. However, it seems like the general consensus is people would prefer that it's not an AI thing, or if it is an AI thing, it's still the character's abilities are based off of his memory first and maybe some AI stuff later on. Now, what's also interesting is that introducing this character has so much potential for the future of the MCU if they choose to continue on with this character. There's a lot of cool stories just with the fact that this character is able to quickly manipulate and memorize and just fight at the same level, or almost at the same level of other characters along the way, or other MCU characters. So it's going to be really interesting to see. Now, we kind of are expecting this character to be a one and done thing where they kind of appear, they're the villain for the movie, and then they die, because it'd be kind of hard to quickly write how this character managed to survive after the events of Civil War, of course, where this movie will take place, all the way through the Avengers Endgame, and then what, he snapped back? He's just back there. Definitely seems like a lot of plot to fill. They could do it if they choose to want to keep this character for a longer term thing, and maybe they will. Maybe that's how they tie Phase 4 into the previous phases of the MCU and Black Widow's story. And it could be really interesting along the way, but also this movie's doing a lot to introduce new characters as well. You know, we have the Red Guardian, who is really interesting, and we're going to see some interesting parallels being drawn here, because both the Red Guardian and Taskmaster have a knockoff version of the super serum, so they have stronger abilities, but they're not invincible either. So it'll be interesting to see how these two face off, but also they're going to be really focusing in on telling this conclusion to Black Widow's story, and that'll be interesting as well. Also, as a side note, are we ever going to finally get closure to Natasha and Bruce's relationship? It seemed like something that kind of got brushed aside. Now, we know from deleted scenes in Infinity War and Endgame, there was maybe a couple of acknowledgements that were a little bit more along the way, but we never really got to see that fleshed out, and maybe that's something we'll do in this upcoming movie as well, or at least some sort of acknowledgement during the time that this movie would take place. It seems like Hulk would be way off where the events of Ragnarok kind of pick up, so we'll have to see what happens with that. But otherwise, a lot of characters are introduced here, and there's not a lot of returning faces, so this character will likely serve as this bridge, reminding people that these other characters still exist in the MCU, and we think that that's really cool. So we wanted to go ahead and turn this conversation around to you guys. Do you guys think that the introduction of Taskmaster and what we know so far about this character is sufficient enough to kind of get you excited about this movie? Are you on the fence about it? We are really excited. We think that it could be a really cool way to not only tonally make Black Widow stand out, as if you watch the latest trailer, definitely feels more like a spy action movie than a superhero movie, which we like, but also it's going to kind of remind fans that, yeah, you're still in a superhero universe, but enjoy this kind of departure from the genre. And that's something we're really excited about. So whatever you're thinking, please let us know in the comments down below. Also, be sure you are subscribed with notifications on if you like videos like this, because we upload new news and discussion videos every single day of the week. But otherwise, that is it for today. Make sure you guys are all subscribed with notifications on, and we'll see you all next time with a brand new video. Bye, guys.
I'm about to.
Hi, everybody.
Hey, everybody. How you doing?
I don't
See you guys.
know anybody.